Hello and welcome to MerMaid Lab's software tutorial titled Working with Reports. This video provides training on the Inflow and Infiltration report. I will be covering the navigation bar items including the zoom feature, the taskbar items, the readings button with daily summaries and period details, and how to generate reports for print or file. For this tutorial, I'll be using the demo station file, Jacobs Creek, which is included in the 2013 software suite. Let's first open up the Inflow and Infiltration report section. And we have a graph of the first day of data from our report, which covers from 4/1/2010 to 4/30/2010. You notice at the top, Jacobs Creek, this is the installation date. This was a very long installation for this demo file, but this is the information for one single day. Now, one of the things I'd like to show you is I want to unpin or auto hide the properties window because we don't need it to view this report. Click on it, that unpins it. Now I click on the graph and it slides over to the left. Now, of course, by clicking on the graph, I had it in the zoom in feature. So let's bring back that day and full scale it. So we're back at full scale for one day, back where we started. Now that's part of the navigation bar features. We have the zoom in feature for your cursor, the zoom out feature also for the cursor, and the move feature. If I use the move feature, it gives me a hand so I can move it back and forth to any selected pieces of data that I want to look at. Okay, we'll put back the zoom in. Also, we have the date feature. We can actually go into a particular date, like the 28th. I know we had a rain event, so I click on the 28th, and here's that nice rain event, rainfall data, and the additional flow rate and the average flow rate. Okay, let's go back and explain that a little bit more. On Friday the 2nd, we had average flow, which is this green graph. Okay, it's colored green. This is the average for the entire month of the report for each day. So this graph will not change when you go to the next day or the next. It always stays the same. The actual flow will be in red. Okay, and it will show you the actual flow for that particular day. Flow conditions were different the next day, as you can see. And the variations between the average and the actual are down here. And this is only showing positive variations, what's above the average and the actual. Now, I want to open up the taskbar and pin it down. Now, one of the things I can show you is the negative variations by using the chart options. It's one of the options that we have available to us. So we can see the negative flow variations versus the positive flow variations. But initially on this graph, I just want to talk about the chart items themselves. Average, actual, variation, and rainfall. Like I showed you before, on the 28th we had rainfall. And it shows in inches what the rain event was doing and at what time. And you also have a scale for rain on the right hand side. Now if we don't want to see rain, all you have to do is uncheck the box, and now the rainfall data is gone. But if you had a rain gauge hooked up to the data logger, you will always have your rainfall information as long as you have the event. Let's go back to the second. Now we also have average period outflow. Now, the average period outflow is just the average based on pump cycle drawdowns on each, and it's kind of smoothed out. You can see it right here. It's going to mimic the inflow pretty much. It's going to be a little bit different, but not much. But quite honestly, I like to use the outflow by pump cycles as a feature instead. Now, to show you this in greater detail, there's a couple ways to do it. I can use my cursor for a zoom in and look at a certain section, or I can change the scale in which I'm looking at. In other words, I'm at 100%. I want to go to 200% for this one. Notice how everything was amplified. Now everything's in a 200% scale, but it's still a full day of data. Now when I do a review, nothing's changing, but it will always amplify to 200%. But of course, you can always use your cursor to drill into certain areas. We'll put a box right here, and now we can look at in detail, and we actually do 100% view. So here's pump 1, the pump capacity, the start and the end time. Pump 2, the pump capacity, start and end time. And pump 3, same data. Okay, now this shows you how the pump cycles are operating. If you notice, this is kind of sticking out here. Pump 2's pump cycle capacity went really low on this particular cycle. Most likely that was a force main issue on this particular station file. And then I will go to 1 day, 100% view. Now we'll go back up to my zoom, and we'll go back to 100% instead of 200%. Also, zoom has a duration. You can look at, say, 6-hour increments on your graph, and now it's just 6 hours. And we can also go back to 1 day. But we go, if you wanted to look at, say, 2 days at a time, you can just look at 2 days at a time. Of course, this button will show you 1 week at a time. But I'm going to go back, and now you can see over here they had a rainfall event on the 4/7/2010. There was a rainfall event. But let's go back to 1 day, 100% view. Now let me explain some of the task features. Now, in the chart items, you can select or take them out. If you don't want to see your average dry day flows, you can just click on it, and all that complete graph will disappear. I like to see it because now we have something to compare against. You can also turn off your variations if you're not interested in that. And you can turn off rain if you don't have a rain gauge. So that's what's going to be in this box for the chart items. The chart options are fill. That is basically putting in the colors. If you want to see it without colors, this is just the graph of it without colors. Use event inflows. Now, event inflows are the actual flows without it being softened or curved. In other words, this is the pump cycles themselves, inflow rates and pump cycles. And you can see how it's being recorded. This is the exact events that's being recorded. Take this out, and the splines actually smooth it a little bit more using splines. So we can show negative variations, what I showed you before. We can use a log scale for rain if you like to do that. And some people like to use a log scale. And also filter details for visible chart data. That's used along with the readings button, and we'll show that in just a minute. But those are the features of the taskbar. Now, the dry day averages is very important because this is concerned with your average flow rate. Okay, we're looking at mobile averages, and it's unselected. If we select this button, it will take 5 days. This will be 5 days before and 5 days after the chart that we're looking at. So if we click on it, you notice that the average flow rates changed. The actual flow did not change at all, but it's just looking at 5 days before and after this event. It's going to be more important when you get into at least, a few days into your flow setting. So now we're looking at 5 days before, 5 days after. And if we're looking at an event, say a flow event for a particular day, you can actually eliminate that by excluding the day from the associated average. That's by clicking this box. Now you can also select the average dry days with rain up to a certain amount. So if you don't want to see any rainfall, leave it on 0. And now it's only going to use the dry weather data. And then you can say, well, 1/10 of an inch will go up to 1/10 of an inch, or 2/10 of an inch, however you want to select that. Okay, for the readings report, when you open up the readings section, you have the daily summaries. Okay, in the daily summaries, you have a few options. First of all, expand this window a little bit, actually a little bit more. There we go. So we see max flow, total, max rain, total rain, max flow, average flow, and the date. And over here you have the sun with a cloud in it. This is actually, if you want to look at the sun and the cloud, is set up so that you can look at the rainy days versus dry days. If we wanted to go to that day directly, just click on it. And we had a 0.26 inch rain event during that day. Now you can also go to average flow and look at it from the highest average flow to the lowest average flow, maximum flow, the highest maximum flow to the lowest. So we'll pick another wet day. Here's another rainfall event. Wasn't quite as high, didn't have as much rainfall that day, we had quite a bit. Even on the date that had the most rainfall, you see this was on the 27th. There's some rain, a nice long slow rain event that day. And the next day, which is the 28th, you can actually click here, then you had a much larger event, and that's when you had an impact on I&I. So you can see all these events by using your daily summary. So now for the periods detail, if you wanted to look at a particular event, I think it was the 16th, or let's see here, which one was the, okay, here's a good one, right here. I just want to look at the data surrounding this event. So I would go over to my taskbar, to my chart options, and filter details to the visible chart data. When I click this button, it's only going to look at the data involved in this part of the graph that we've kind of isolated. So it allows you to do that. When you uncheck it, it will do the entire graph report. Of course, then you can click on your readings button. That will disappear. And again, rescaling it is easy. And we can go right back to Friday the 2nd when we began.
Now that we've gone through the navigational bar items, the taskbar items, and the readings button, I want to show you how to generate reports for print or file. First, we would go up to the drop-down menu on the readings button. The first item is reports, second's reading report, and then detailed reports, which would be all the data based on your date range that you've set or what's visible on the chart. So let's do the report first. The report is just a graphical report that you can print off by using the print button, or you can export it into Excel, PDF, or as a Word document. The next drop-down item is the readings report. Your readings report is your daily flow information of your average flow, maximum flow, rainfall, and maximum rainfall events for each day that you have on your date range. For my date range, I had a 30-day setup from 4/1 through 4/30. So as you can see, I have all of my information for each day, and also there's totals at the bottom. And again, this can be printed off or exported into Excel, PDF, or as a Word document. The last one is your detailed reports. As I said earlier, we can print off all the data, which would be the entire date range data, or what is visible on the chart. I just want to show you what's visible on the chart. This report includes both of the other reports. It gives you your daily information, but this time in half-hour increments of your flow, average flow, variations in flow, and rain information. And at the bottom of the report, you have a graphical display of how your flows were trended for the day. If you had selected all data, you would look at all 30 days. You would have 30 pages to review on that last report. And that concludes my tutorial on Inflow and Infiltration report. Thank you so much for attending, and give me a call if you have any questions.